So easily one of the strongest builds right now in Borderlands 4 is Vex utilizing her Bloodletter Bleed skill. This is going just crazy right now. It is able to stack itself and essentially get to infinite damage if you can keep critting. That way it can keep applying itself and just stack over and over and over and over. There's a lot of really cool interactions with it. So with this build, what I ended up trying to do is just getting as much bleed damage as we could and also increase our mobbing potential, because obviously it can boss with very minimal setup. You just need the skill, a crit knife, and a good gun to just get a decent dot started. But from there, the mobbing I want to speed up. That way, essentially, if we hit a crit on an enemy, they're going to end up bleeding to death. That was kind of the whole goal with this setup. And with it, you don't even need to aim because the gun is going to be auto tracking to everybody for you. So overall, the clear speed is really good, especially when you're utilizing the specters, and you can still just do free boss one shots essentially across the board. So it's going to be incredibly quick, whether you're farming drills for loot or you're farming a specific boss for dedicated drops. This build has got you covered. I'm going to break down everything that you need to know for how to put this build together, including your skills, gear, and other interactions in terms of specializations. To start us off, let's look at Bloodletter itself. So this skill works by gun and skill critical hits have a chance to apply bleed, causing kinetic status effect damage over time for a duration. Bleed is affected by status effect application chance and itself considered a status effect. So I do have this on a class mod right now. I will go over that in a little bit, but at 9 out of 5 right now, there's a 50% chance of your critical hit of applying bleed. It's gonna last for 4 seconds, deal 54% of that gun damage per second, and you can stack this up to 20 times. Now, what this is actually doing is it is counting as like gun and skill damage, mainly skill, and it's essentially every time it crits, it's going to apply another stack to itself and just keep going up, basically infinitely. If it's gonna be critting, it's gonna keep going up and up and up. So what we're gonna be doing with this build is essentially trying to make it so it's guaranteed that we apply a stack. So we're going to be getting some status effect application chance and maxing out our crit chance across the board and adding some other damage along the way. But the crit chance is the big part. We just want to be making sure the bleed itself's critting, our gun's critting, so that way it is always applying on almost every single hit that we are dealing to enemies. For our skills, I like to run these specters with Coven as the augment, just as our main action skill. You can use Incarnate if you just want to move around quicker. Incarnate's not going to do any damage for you, but you could just get that movement speed if you want to be farming a little bit quicker. If you're running drills, anything like that, Dead Ringer is fantastic. You put the specters down, they're going to end up just critting for free, applying a bleed, and it's going to really help out your clear. So that's currently what I've been running. You use that with Coven to increase your critical chance even further as you're spamming down the specters. So that ends up working pretty well. But for the actual skills, I put 5 points into Cold Iron, increases our gun damage. Increases the gun damage. Once we get to specializations, you see it will increase our skill damage, which will affect our bleeds, which is really nice. We're gonna max out Portents of Suffering for the status effect damage. For the bleeds, I like to do a little bit of extra reload speed while at full health. We're gonna have lifesteal with this build, so you get that reload speed and you can keep shooting in case you happen to run out of ammo in that magazine. Then for our other 2 points to move down, I just have Grave Fiends right now for extra damage for me and my minions. Ends up working out pretty nice. Then from here, we're going to move down to the bottom left tree and get Prismatic Ichor. This can apply a status effect based off of the bleeds that we're placing. So the bleeds are already doing insane damage, and then we can get 150% of that bleed damage as a different status effect. So this can end up doing some insane damage when it procs. Then we get Keen Suffering to have our status effect damage have a chance to crit. This is 20% right here. It's going to really help keep the bleeds going once you just hit an enemy once and they end up dying. Now, when you combine that with our green tree, we get the lifesteal out of Leeching Attunement here when we're using kinetic weapons. Really focus on keeping kinetic as your main damage source. One, it's just overall, in my opinion, the best element. And two, you're going to get that lifesteal. Then from here, obviously maxing out Bloodletter. And once again, with your class mod, you're going to be trying to get as many points of Bloodletter as you can to increase that damage. Then we move down, we can get material components to increase our kinetic damage, which one, if you're using kinetic weapon, is going to boost that initial hit. And then the kinetic status effect damage is going to boost the bleed. So this kind of is helping us in 2 areas of the damage in the build, which is really nice. Then we're going to be maxing out target prescience for the gun critical hit chance. We just want to be hitting enemies. We don't want to actually have to aim at them. So if we get a really high base gun crit chance. That it gives us a higher chance of actually like proccing the bleed to start. And then 4 points into Keen Mind for the skill critical hit chance. This is going to apply to the bleeds and give us a much more likelihood of continuing that bleed even without the guaranteed crit knife applied to enemies. So this is really, really good for mobbing and badasses that you don't really have an angle to throw a knife at. Now, looking at the gear that you're going to want for this build, in terms of weapons, there's really only 3 things that I use for this build. The first being the legendary sniper rifle, the Stray. This can be farmed from Pango and Bango. And this, with a Jacob's part, ends up being insane for clear, because what this weapon does is it's going to shoot a projectile where you're aiming, like a normal sniper, but then it's going to fire a bullet to the left and to the right of it that are going to automatically home in on enemies. You can look straight up in the air, and these 2 bullets will just curve straight down and hit enemies. So it's really, really nice for just passively taking out enemies. Just focus on one that you're aiming at normally for your bullet that you can control, and the other 2, they might go to that target, they might go to other ones, and overall it just really helps clear out enemies very quickly. So I've really been enjoying that. The Jacob's part is very nice for extra clear, because when we have that really high base crit chance, those ricochets are now going to be bouncing around to other enemies and helping us apply more bleeds to more enemies in fewer shots. So that part is very important to get on the Stray, and also it's going to synergize with the enhancement that we're going to be looking at in a second. So really make sure you get the kinetic Jacob's Stray. That's really, really going to help you out. Second thing being a spread launcher. This is basically just for vile enemies or applying just the highest base bleed that you possibly can. So it doesn't have to be the Rainbow Vomit. I just happen to have a Rainbow Vomit with spread launcher. Any spread launcher will do. The higher the base damage, the better. They can roll into like the 30,000+ per projectile as a base damage on them at level 50. So just keep an eye out for those. And then the other thing just is a high damage sniper. So I like the Bore Steel Ballista. This thing is very strong when I'm bossing. Essentially, I walk into the arena, throw a knife, shoot this. The boss is guaranteed to bleed to death. It is very, very powerful. Now, when you combine this with a rep kit, that specifically having an order is very nice. So you get these 2 charges, and then also the amp. So you increase the damage of your next shot by 200%. That's going to allow you to apply huge bleeds. So you pop this, then either shoots your ballista or your sped launcher, whichever one. For most enemies in solo, like any boss in solo, you only need the ballista. Maybe some like solo bossing if you're playing 4-player co-op and their health gets really high. It might take an extra second if you use this, so maybe pull out the spread launcher. But just if you want to apply really high bleeds, you pop this first. Then for the ordnance, we're going to be looking at the Jacob's throwing knife, specifically with the penetrator augment on there. That's going to roll with damage amp payload. Specifically, they are going to be paired together. This is what's going to allow us to just guarantee kill bosses and make sure every single bleed tick is critting, and it allows it to stack much, much quicker. You probably won't even need this with how much crit chance we can have in this build just by base, but this is just what you're going to be using for every single boss. You're going to throw this at them, shoot your shot, and they're going to bleed to death, almost guaranteed. You probably don't even need, once you get the right gear, to throw a second one. Just those, 5 seconds is all you need to kill the target. Now, in terms of class mod, you're going to be looking for a purple Scion class mod with as many points into Bloodletter as you possibly can. Then from there, you're going to be looking for gun critical hit chance and action skill critical hit chance. Those are going to be like your 2 big ones right there, just so we can, once again, make sure we're critting and applying bleeds and making sure our bleeds crit. From there, you can do, status effect damage, sniper damage, anything along those lines. Really doesn't matter after that. Just look for the gun critical hit chance. And I don't even have the action skill crit chance right now on mine. So, there's improvements to be had with this build. Now for the shield, it doesn't matter too much. I just like the super soldier for the movement speed, fire rates, and also regenning ammo. That way, because we are using a sniper, which don't always have the most ammo, it's really nice to get that ammo back, continue to shoot. Also, the movement speed I really like for farming, especially with Vagabond on here. Between boss fights, as I'm looping around and activating the Encore machine, this helps me just get there quicker and speed up the farms. Now for our enhancement, you're going to be looking for guns with Jacob's license part have a 20% chance to grant a critical hit. That's why I said look for a Stray with a Jacob's part. This allows us to get a much higher base crit chance and applying bleeds much more often to targets we're not even looking at. On here, in terms of passives, Fire rate and mag size would be like the main two that I look for. But at the end of the day, we're doing so much damage. It doesn't matter. You can see that my passives are still pretty bad on my roll. Main thing, just look for that Jacob's 20% chance to grant a critical hit. And the last thing to look at for gear is our set bonuses. These don't matter too much either. I personally have been liking high caliber for the projectile speed. It really helps out to the seeking projectiles of the Stray because they do move a little slower. We do get some gun damage, very nice, just along the way. And then also bullets pierce enemies. This just allows us, if enemies are really close together, you can hit multiple with a shot and apply more bleeds with less shots. We don't need more bossing damage at all with this, so I'm just trying to increase our clear as much as possible. Then I pair that with 2 Deadeye for a little bit more gun critical damage. If you want to reverse this, you can, or just, run 3 Deadeye and 2 of whatever other set. It doesn't matter. It's completely up to you what you do for the set bonuses. The final thing we need to be looking at is our specializations. Now, once again, bleed is applying as skill damage, so we can actually benefit out of these two. I am in a gun and a honed mine. All of these are going to help out our bleed. So we get base crit chance and increasing the damage of their crits, which is really cool. Also, any gun damage increases we have, 50% of that is going to be going into our action skill damage. Awesome for our bleeds. When we want more specters to throw down, we can pop a rep kit and get their cooldown. And then finally, another big one for helping us make sure we apply bleeds is contamination. Critical hits grant increased status effect application chance. There's 10 stacks. Each stack lasts 10 seconds. We're critting all the time, so we're going to stack this up super quick and increase our application chance by 100%. Quickly showing off the rotation for this build if you're doing a boss fight and want to see exactly how to go about it. Essentially what you do if you want to just maximize your damage and everything, you'd pop a rep kit first before you enter the arena. Then the boss appears, you throw a throwing knife, you shoot your ballista shot. It is basically guaranteed to apply a bleed, and it's just going to keep stacking itself over and over and over. If you need to throw a second knife, go for it, but I mean right there we were taking for hundreds of millions. The boss is just going to die. And there's a lot of times, especially with how much crit chance we have, and I'm still even missing, 10% crit chance on my class mod for our skill. It's just gonna stack for almost forever. It's crazy how far it can go. You're essentially guaranteed to kill the boss. So it ends up working really well for speed farming. Just throw the knife, pop a shot. If it doesn't pop a bleed, shoot again. It really doesn't matter if you have the amp on there or not. And it's just going to keep going. If you want to keep going insane in numbers, just keep applying the knives and it's going to stack so quickly. We're in hundreds of billions already, thousands of billions, tens of thousands of billions, hundreds of thousands of billions. And you see, it gets out of hand very, very, very quickly. And it just ends up becoming numbers that you can't even comprehend anymore. So yeah, this might be some of the most damage we've ever done in a Borderlands game, and I just think it's really cool. So I wanted to share a pretty optimized build for this, and hopefully you guys can put it together soon and get some fun out of it before it inevitably gets fixed, because it definitely should not be doing this, but it's still a ton of fun to be doing. Also right there you can see our Ichor proccing, and then we get now a corrosive dot doing the same thing. And it's just crazy how much damage it can end up doing. Yeah, best of luck putting this build together. It's just a ton of fun. And hopefully it helps you guys out in terms of farming gear for like other characters, or, just increasing this Vex bleed stuff even further if you want to just fully max it out. Yeah, it's a ton of fun. Everybody should get a chance to try it. And right there, hopefully you can make some damage numbers just straight up disappear because they got too big. Yeah, hope you all have a fantastic day. Thank you for watching this far. I'll catch you in the next one. See ya.